Paul Felder slams Ilia Topuria for avoiding Arman Tsarukyan fight. UFC controversy explained. Paul Felder's frustration with Ilia Topuria's title strategy. In the world of UFC, there's a growing concern that champions are avoiding fights with the rightful top contenders. Paul Felder, the former fighter and current commentator, has voiced his discontent regarding this trend, particularly focusing on UFC lightweight champion Ilia Topuria. Topuria, who boasts an impressive record of 17 wins and no losses in MMA, has controversially stated that he would prefer to vacate his title rather than face Arman Tsarukyan, the current #1 contender with a record of 23 wins and 3 losses. Felder acknowledges that Topuria's stance might be a strategic move, yet he finds it perplexing. On the podcast Believe You Me, Felder expressed his disbelief, stating the guy's the #1 contender. And to say that you would rather relinquish the belt than fight him is, come on, man. We're getting a little carried away. He elaborated on how many fighters today seem eager to avoid challenging matchups, often jumping between weight classes instead of defending their titles against the top contenders. Felder passionately argues that this mentality is detrimental to the sport. He insists, if the guy's #1 and the UFC says, this is the guy, you're the champ, you're holding that belt, that's who you fight. If you're the best and he's not on your level, then prove it. Just go out there and prove it. He emphasizes that he doesn't doubt Topuria's ability to win, but is frustrated by the reluctance to face the top challengers. It's worth noting that Tsarukyan may need to compete in another fight before he can challenge for the title again, especially after his withdrawal from a title fight against Islam Makhachev earlier this year. Meanwhile, Topuria has mentioned that he anticipates his first title defense will be against either Justin Gaethje or Paddy Pimblett, which has further irritated Felder. I hate it. I was like, come on, man, here we go, Felder remarked. Here we go again. Now you've got a champion who's just looking for the biggest thing. Look, the UFC is not going to try to put you in a position that's not going to be a big thing. What do you think? Is it fair for champions to avoid fighting top contenders? Should they be obligated to defend their titles against the best? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And here's where it gets controversial. Is we witnessing a shift in the culture of fighting, where the pursuit of fame and money outweighs the spirit of competition? Let's discuss. Arman Tsarukyan claims Justin Gaethje must beat him first for title shot. The UFC lightweight division is in absolute chaos, and everyone has an opinion about who deserves the next shot at Ilia Topuria's newly won title. But here's where things get heated. Arman Tsarukyan is drawing a line in the sand, insisting that any would-be challenger, including Justin Gaethje, needs to go through him first, even as Topuria himself hints at a different direction for his first title defense. Let's rewind for a second. At UFC 317, Ilia Topuria stunned the world by knocking out Charles Oliveira in the very first round, seizing the vacant lightweight championship in dramatic fashion. The celebration had barely begun when Paddy Pimblett, another rising star, crashed the octagon for a fiery face-off with the new champ. The crowd went wild, but UFC President Dana White quickly poured cold water on the moment, making it clear that Pimblett isn't next in line for the belt. So, who is? That's the million-dollar question. The division is stacked with hungry contenders, Arman Tsarukyan and Justin Gaethje among them, each believing they've earned their shot. But the path to the title is anything but straightforward. Dana White has already dismissed Gaethje's ultimatum for a title fight, even suggesting that Gaethje should consider retirement after his recent demands. As for Tsarukyan, despite serving as the backup fighter for UFC 317 and making weight, White has hinted that he still needs to prove himself further before getting another title opportunity. And this is the part most people miss. While Topuria has publicly stated that he expects the UFC to push for Gaethje as his first challenger, Tsarukyan is adamant that Gaethje's recent record doesn't justify a title shot. On his podcast, Tsarukyan argued, Gaethje just beat Rafael Fiziev, who was ranked outside the top 10, and only barely won that fight. He lost to Max Holloway before that. It's not fair for him to leapfrog the line. If he wants a title shot, he should have to beat me first. But here's where it gets controversial. Topuria himself has thrown a curveball, saying he'd rather vacate his title than defend it against Tsarukyan. That's right. The champion would rather give up his belt than face the Armenian contender. This bombshell has sparked intense debate among fans and fighters alike. Is Topuria ducking a dangerous opponent? Or is he simply looking for bigger, more marketable fights? Meanwhile, Tsarukyan's own title hopes have been hampered by inactivity, especially after he withdrew from a scheduled bout with Islam Makhachev earlier this year. Despite his desire to face Gaethje next, the likelihood of that matchup seems slim, which only adds to the confusion at the top of the division. So, what do you think? Should Gaethje have to fight Tsarukyan before getting a title shot, or does his resume speak for itself? And is Topuria's reluctance to face Tsarukyan a sign of smart matchmaking or something more controversial? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This is one debate that's far from settled. Michael Bisping slams Ilia Topuria for avoiding Arman Tsarukyan fight, pulling a John Jones. Is history repeating itself? A UFC champion's controversial choice sparks déjà vu. Michael Bisping has raised a provocative question that's shaking up fight circles. Is newly crowned lightweight champion Ilia Topuria avoiding a dangerous matchup in a move eerily reminiscent of John Jones's controversial career decisions? The answer could redefine what it means to be a UFC title holder. In a candid YouTube analysis, Bisping dissected Topuria's path after his stunning UFC 317 knockout of Charles Oliveira to claim the lightweight crown. While the Georgian-Spanish phenom now floats between potential fights, three names dominate the conversation. Fiery rival Paddy Pimblett, who stormed the cage post-UFC 317. Battle-tested Justin Gaethje and the division's boogeyman, number 2 ranked Arman Tsarukyan. But here's where it gets controversial. Bisping argues Tsarukyan, a grappling savant with explosive striking, deserves the shot, drawing parallels to Tom Aspinall's relentless pursuit of John Jones. Is Ilia pulling a John Jones? Bisping challenged. Tsarukyan's a nightmare matchup for anyone. Young, hungry, and technically brilliant everywhere. Striking, wrestling, cardio. Yet Topuria's reportedly threatened to vacate the belt rather than face him. The tension mirrors heavyweight drama. Tsarukyan, originally slated to fight Islam Makhachev for gold at UFC 311, lost his chance due to a last-minute back injury. Though UFC CEO Dana White insists he'll need another win, Tsarukyan's deploying Aspinall-style tactics, even creating duck-themed memes and offering $500,000 side bets to bait Topuria. He's doing everything short of skywriting to get this fight, Bisping noted. Here's the uncomfortable truth every champion faces. Should title holders prioritize business over rankings? Topuria's reluctance contrasts sharply with his reputation as MMA's golden boy, a bilingual ambassador praised for his humility and skill. I'm not here to trash Ilia, Bisping clarified, but champions fight the number 1 contender, period. With Gaethje emerging as a fan-friendly alternative, ranked number 3, but a 2-time title challenger, Bisping predicts a potential Gaethje-Pimblett eliminator if Topuria balks. Yet the rankings are clear. Tsarukyan sits atop the division. Merit says Arman's the guy, Bisping stressed. But merit doesn't always sell pay-per-views. This begs the question, are we witnessing a new era where champions cherry-pick opponents? Sound off below. Should Topuria face Tsarukyan immediately? Or is avoiding high-risk fights smart business? A quick hits. Whittaker's reset. Robert Whittaker breaks silence after crushing UFC Abu Dhabi loss. 17-17-17-29. Robert Whittaker releases first statement since disappointing UFC Abu Dhabi. No-show nightmare. Fighter pockets cash, skips bout in Brazil. www.mmafighting.com/2025/24. In conclusion, heavyweight chaos. With Cyril Gane beating Tom Aspinall absolutely cannot lose to Cyril Gane UFC heavyweight division. Reactions split on Dan Hooker's UFC criticism. Justified rant or career suicide? www.mmafighting.com/2025-72Q447688. What does he have left to lose? Beef with UFC. Bonfin's bold call. After edging Wonderboy, Gabriel Bonfim targets Colby Covington. www.mmafighting.com/2025-729-244-68929. Gabriel Bonfim calls out Colby Covington. Clean victory. Stephen Thompson UFC Nashville. Shockers. Mighty Mouse teams with Mike Perry in wild crossover. https://mmafighting.com/fighter/3801 Mike Perry. UFC 318 Slow-Mo Gold. Relive every crunching knee and spinning kick. NCUFC. Buzz. Fight Week Survival Guide. When to eat, sleep, and scream at your TV. Legislation alert. Does the Ali Act update help or hurt fighters? Eric McGracken sparks debate. https://twitter.com/Eric McGracken status 194985784457. Topuria vs Pimblett. Tsarukyan? Cast your vote below or rage tweet us at Alexander Klee at Jed K. Mashu. And remember, in MMA, the real fight sometimes happens outside the cage. Poll results, 345 votes. Paddy Pimblett, 31%. Arman Tsarukyan, 48%. Justin Gaethje, 18%. Wildcard, 0%. Drop your hot takes. Will Topuria's legacy thrive or nosedive based on this decision?